So when I was growing up, I watched a lot of like these girly magical girl anime. I remember one anime I watched it. It was called Mermaid Melody, and I was like 6 or 7 at the time when I watched it. The anime was about these mermaid princesses who, of course, go through magical girl transformations into these idol singers forms with really cute outfits, and they sing songs from their banger OST, which are so pure it can be used to defeat villains. And me, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, they're all so pretty and beautiful. Like, I remember I didn't really care that it was for girls or it was implied to be for girls only. I just remember that me watching these magical girl mermaids or whatever brought me a lot of joy and fun because of how eye candy and cute everything was. There's another show like this that I've watched. Well, it doesn't really count as an anime, but it's still the same genre, which was My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Yeah, do you guys remember that show? It was a show just about these colorful horses who do silly things and become friends with each other and learn the ways of friendship as they spend more time together. And again, I didn't care that it was made for girls. I just thought that despite the childish appearance of the show, I guess, it's really the message of the show that truly mattered. And it hit deep for me. Also, they have banger OC. Like, at some point, I just got used to these cute things, these cute characters, because the show taught me a lot of good lessons about friendship and whatnot, even though I was still a stupid little kid who could not apply those lessons at the time. So, yeah, I have noticed a pattern in what I like. I loved watching silly cartoons because not only they were entertaining as hell, but they have opened my eyes to a lot of things that I might have not realized otherwise. Like, I know that sounds crazy to some people, but all of us take different paths to get to where we are, to shape who we are, you know? So now we're going to be talking about how well this translates to my real life circumstances. And well, it did not translate well at all. And here comes my sob story. Basically, I was essentially raised in a way that accidentally gave me a really bad mindset about life. My mindset was I don't have to do anything because someone else will do it for me. So, my parents, especially my mother, would always do everything for me when I was a kid. And I don't mean just, I don't mean just make food, wash clothes, or stuff like that. Those are normal stuff. I mean that even if I have to do my own errands, like for example, if I have schoolwork that I should be doing on my own, she would be there to do the job for me already. Not even just help me do the job, she would just do the job herself. And I wouldn't even have the chance to do it myself. So, my responsibility that I was learning to tackle with my own strength had turned into my mother's responsibility, and she decided to tackle it for me instead. So, I ended up getting to do nothing as a result. And this repeats for countless amount of times for years, more than a decade of my life, actually. Eventually, I had the so called bad mindset I mentioned earlier, where I'm like, oh, so I don't need to do anything because someone else will do it for me. Okay, so I've explained the cause, and now it's time to go to the effect. What happens for me to become quote unquote depressed, edgy, whatever. So, since I was taught to not have agency for my own, not taught to make decisions on my own, I did not talk to a lot of people growing up. I was alone for a lot of times, especially during school, because I was just scared of talking to people and I kept thinking that they were out to get me. I would spend recess drawing stuff. I remember drawing a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's because that shit was fire at the time. Sometimes I drew ponies while everyone else was out playing. I would talk only if I really needed to. Like, if I'm forced to talk to a teacher about homework or I ask someone to go to the bathroom. And I swear to God, even just asking to go to the bathroom was extremely scary for me. I remember I had such lack of desire to make decisions for myself that I I let myself urinate in class instead of just telling the teacher that I needed to pee. And yeah, it was embarrassing for all parties involved. So I continued to be like this because it was the only way I knew how to be until ninth grade, where it was like the giant Big Bang for me and all hell broke loose. And I think this was when it began my very huge trauma. So, what happened was we had to group up in class to do presentations for the next week or so. So, at this point, I was still an NPC. I literally just sat there and did nothing while everyone else was finding groups. And I thought nothing was wrong at that time. But eventually, as the deadline week came closer, I think, if I remember correctly, I think reality started to set in for me. I started to become very stressed because, for all I knew, I was the only one in class who was not in a group presentation. But guess what? My social anxiety was so bad that I still ended up doing nothing while I was still stressing the hell out of it in my own head. When I literally could have just texted one of my friends, like, hey, can I group up with you? But no, I didn't because in my mind, I thought I would look embarrassing that I had no group. When in reality, I shouldn't even be caring about that as the main thing. I should have just been focusing on how to fix the situation, but I didn't. So the deadline week came. It was time to present our presentations, and our teacher found out that I had no group. And so he went to town on me. He paused everything in class, all groups that was going on, so that he could scold me in front of everybody. And they were just all silent while he was berating me that I was irresponsible, I had done nothing to help myself, no one should become like me. I sat there with my head down, and it was the most agonizing, longest 10 minutes of my life that I had ever had to sit through. And every second during that yelling and shouting from my teacher, I really just wanted it to end soon. But it just kept on going. In my mind, I was very confused. In my mind, I was asking, what's happening? What's going on? What did I do wrong? I'm sorry for everything, but I don't understand. And while I wasn't physically crying, I could felt myself crying nonstop in my head, and I really wish that I wasn't there to begin with. And then a lot of terrible things started to be planted like seeds into my brain. So finally, after that, the class was over, and I did not want to talk to anybody in my class. I was scared of everyone's reaction to me. I remember on that day, everyone went to lunch while I sat in the classroom in the dark alone because someone turned off the lights for some reason. So, yeah. But guess what, guys? Everything that I've told you about this incident, it happens. Voice track. It happens 2 more times in other classes. Yes. The I have no group or for the presentation thing. One other time was I had no work to submit for a midterm retest because I failed a midterm exam. So what happens here is I think what really solidified my trauma the most. For your information, this was the same teacher that scolded me, but I failed the midterm exam for his class. So we had to submit a work to change it to a passing grade. And I'm angry that my 14-year-old self at that time still did not learn the lesson and did not do the work and basically repeated the no group presentation incident. So the deadline came, our teacher walked into class, he started checking everyone's work one by one, and as he kept checking each work individually, I had no work and I was having a panic attack inside. Basically, if you've never had a panic attack, and I hope and pray none of you guys ever get one, imagine your heart beating so fast from fear that you can hear it. You can hear the heartbeat sound so loud, and it feels like someone stabbed you with a metal pole into your chest, even though there's nothing there. I remember that feeling so well. I still remember it to this day. That's what I was feeling. Well, okay, so my teacher was checking for the midterm work. Then he finally finished everyone, and obviously he noticed mine wasn't there. And he asked me, "Where is your work?" with a really angry look on his face. Rightfully so. My younger self was trying to come up with excuses, but he understandably shuts it down every second. And after that day, that's what solidified my thinking to do what I am about to tell you guys. With everything that I've told you guys, my brain basically concluded this to me. The world is a scary place. People are dangerous. Interacting with people will only hurt me. Lock myself in my room so that I'm safe that way. And do not come out unless I need to. That was what my brain told me. So, conclusion, I was scared of everyone and I was basically done with everything. You know, I'm just going to sit in my room and play games all day because it's fun and I don't have to feel like I'm going to die any second I step outside and talk to another human being. Reminder that I was 14. I was still 14 at this point, and since then I have felt nothing but dread, and or I wanted to commit commit unexistence in this world, and I felt this way for 5 years straight after that. I felt that nobody understood me and nobody can help me. So I have to carry myself to keep going even on days where maybe I don't want to wake up. Also, flash news. Did you know COVID was happening around this time? And for lots of people, it was hell. But for me, it was heaven because I did not have to go outside and talk to people for real. Yippee! So, COVID continued for my high school for 2 years until I got into college. So at that point, everything was changing for me. Everything was new for me, in college. You meet new people. I was still lost, scared, constantly filled with anxiety, like how I was the past 5 years and like the rest of my life before then. New environment, new people, yada yada. I didn't want to do any sort of engagement activity anymore. I was always alone, and I thought I would probably remain that way for the rest of my time. I always had this fierce look on my face, like I'm preparing to defend myself from something dangerous, like I have to brace for some sort of impact so that I don't get hurt. I was just an edgy kid who was miserable all the time, and nobody probably wanted to talk to me anymore, as much as I kept thinking about ways how I wanted to end my time. I always didn't have enough courage to go through with it. Not because I valued my life, but it's because I even gave up on making any decision for myself, whether it's good or bad. There was no difference to me anymore. But then one day, I decided to go back to watching my silly cartoons, my anime. One day, I saw this show, this anime. It's called Bocchi the Rock, and it was about this pink haired girl who is socially anxious. She kept herself in her own room. She doesn't want to talk to people whatsoever. At school, she was always alone ever since she was really young. Since she doesn't have friends, all she spent her time on was the guitar. And she got really good with the guitar. But her anxiety was still there, and she couldn't perform in front of people, let alone speak to people. But one day she met someone who wanted her to join her band. And while she was still really scared of everything, bit by bit she learns how to manage her fear and gain confidence thanks to her friends making her feel like she belongs somewhere. And the way they interpreted the main character's anxiety was so accurate that I would wager about 79% of the interactions in the show was something that I have done before in real life myself. And that's not an exaggeration. I'm being legit. It's a really great show. And despite my extreme depression and anxiety and how low of a self esteem I had, I thoroughly enjoyed the show so goddamn much. And I'm saying this once again, even after a decade, I'm watching about a show about cute girls doing cute things, but the message of the show really spoke to me that this was when I really wanted to change and be just like the main character of this show. There was only about 5% of me that believes a disgusting, edgy loser like me could also have friends who care about me. Similar to Bocchi in the show. And I know once again, it's just a show, a cartoon, an animation on screen. But I I didn't care. I didn't care what it was. I loved watching it. I felt like I was a child again, and I wanted to be cool like the characters in the show. And just like when I talked about the mermaid anime or My Little Pony at the beginning of this video. So I tried, I started to try hanging out with people more often. I tried to make some small chats. I tried to exchange how I really feel more. Of course, a lot of that was awkward at first because I didn't really know the social cues. I still don't think I do. But as time went on, I felt better and better about my life, about myself, and the things I do. After spending all that time locked up in a cage that I put myself there, I tried learning to be vulnerable in front of people. And I'm gonna be honest, it hurt. It definitely hurt. I felt very embarrassed that I look weak in front of others. I was very shy about showing who I am to people. But as I kept doing it, it felt like the weight I was carrying on my back kept decreasing. Maybe I would try cracking some weird jokes here and there, and I went, it probably wouldn't hurt, right? Maybe it would, but I thought I should just give it a chance rather than never at all. So I'm still shy with a lot of things to this day, and I think I don't give myself enough credit on certain things. But compared to before, I feel like the world now has more flavors than before. Flavors that I never knew existed, and tastes that I never knew could feel so good. So I finally decided that I want to take control of my decisions of what I want to do in life. I decided I would rather take risks to learn more about who I am rather than getting told by someone of what I should do and remain unhurt forever. That's why I'm going to tell you guys my dream from childhood. You guys remember that I watched those magical girl shows and I was mesmerized by them? I was so touched by them that now, even as an adult edgy boy, I still want to like become a cute girl someday. Okay, maybe not as a transitioning gender thing, but just because it sounds fun to me, like cross dressing or whatever. And I want to keep living until, my wishes come true. So if it says anything, if you relate to me in some ways, just know that things will get better. It is mathematically and logically impossible for things to remain terrible always 24/7. And I never really understood the saying that life is like a roller coaster. I always brushed that saying off as a cringy philosopher thing that people say to just sound cool. But based on everything that I've been through, now I think I understand why that saying is a saying. You will go up the roller coaster, but it won't go up forever. Eventually, it has to go down, and vice versa. You will experience good times, which won't last forever. Then you will experience bad times, which won't last forever. And this will repeat unpredictably, which is what makes life challenging, but also interesting at times. Humans like us always rely on each other to survive, whether we like it or not. That's why even if you're in a hard place, you won't be alone forever. I promise that. If you've watched the video this far in, thank you for watching genuinely. And a message from one of my favorite video games of all time. Please stay determined.